Today, we're hearing from retired Major General William Enert, a man who's lived the meaning of service. For over 3 decades, he commanded soldiers, deployed troops into combat zones, and shouldered the kind of responsibility most of us can barely imagine. He comes from a family of veterans who've dedicated their lives to defending the nation. So when someone with that kind of experience raises a warning that we are one trigger pull away from another Kent State tragedy, we have a duty to listen.
Good morning, Chairman Grassley, Ranking Member Durbin, and Senators. My name is William Enert. I'm a retired Major General. The last 5 years of my service, I was the Adjutant General, that's the Commanding General, for the 13,000 soldiers and airmen of the Illinois National Guard. I had guardsmen in combat in Iraq and Afghanistan 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We had the largest combat deployment since World War II. I served nearly 36 years in the military. I come from a proud family of veterans. My father, brother, and I served a total of nearly 64 years. We each served as enlisted members. I was commissioned an officer in 1982. After military retirement, I was elected to Congress, where I served on the House Armed Services Committee. I recite these facts so that you understand that I have experience at the enlisted, officer, general officer, and policymaker level. This experience forms the basis of what I will tell you today. I'm here to talk with you about appropriate uses of the National Guard. The National Guard has a proud history of service to our nation, from pre-Revolutionary War days to the World Wars to today's conflicts. The National Guard is the best trained military reserve force in the world. There were times during the Iraq War that the Army National Guard provided more than half of our combat power in Iraq. We train in military skills, not police skills, to provide part-time soldiers for our nation's defense. Our other equally important role is as a trained and ready force for the governors. In our state role, we deploy to assist in disaster recovery. We deployed to New Orleans for Hurricane Katrina, to Illinois for Mississippi River floods, to St. Louis for tornadoes, the Nevada Air National Guard for forest fires, to name but a few. You've heard what we are. Here's what we're not. We're not trained as police officers. Our soldiers may receive a couple of hours a year in civil disturbance training. We do not receive the months and years of training required to become qualified police officers. We're not trained to perform arrests, to perform traffic stops, to perform investigations, to follow up on crime tips. The calls to mobilize the Guard fail to understand this, nor do they understand the cost to mobilize the Guard. There's the cost to the taxpayer. The number I've heard for Los Angeles is $120 million for 4,000 guardsmen for 60 days. That's a high price tag for a stopgap measure. How many police officers could have been hired, trained, and put on the streets for $120 million? There's the cost to the Department of Defense and to FEMA. Every dollar spent on a misguided use is a dollar that can't be spent on training or equipping these soldiers, that can't be spent on their real mission. A dollar that isn't there for disaster response when the next hurricane hits New Orleans or the next tornado levels St. Louis. And there's the hidden costs to the soldiers and their families. These are part-time soldiers. They have jobs at home. They have educations they are missing. They have families who rely on them, employers who rely on them. Let me speak to you from a guardsman's heart. Sunday, my pastor at the Presbyterian Church in Belleville, Illinois, spoke about trust. He was speaking to the trust between God and man. Let me speak to you of a soldier's trust. A soldier trusts fellow soldiers. They trust their leadership. They trust the political leadership of this country to send them on missions, whether wartime or peacetime, that make sense. Missions that don't waste their time or lives, that don't waste their sacrifices. A soldier's family trusts that their sacrifices, their loss of that soldier for a day, a week, a month, maybe forever, isn't a waste. Employers trust that guardsmen's mission is necessary, that it's important, that it protects our nation. Communities trust that our soldiers serve our nation, defend justice and democracy. Trust that a soldier's mission is to protect them, not police them. To misuse our troops, whether guard or active duty, is to breach those bonds of trust. When these soldiers are doing what they signed up for, defending our great nation, or helping their neighbors recover from a natural disaster, they don't mind sacrificing wages, missing a child's birthday, losing months away from school. But when they're bagging trash in Washington, D.C., they lose trust. Worse, their employers and families lose trust. It took a generation for the Guard to recover from the stain of guardsmen shooting and killing college students at Kent State. We're one trigger pull away from another such tragedy. Don't let it happen. National Guard forces are for a real emergency, not a Band-Aid for long-standing problems that need a long-term solution. Thank you.
General Enert's message isn't about politics. It's about responsibility, trust, and understanding what the military is and what it's not. The National Guard is a proud institution designed to defend the nation and to respond to real emergencies: floods, fires, hurricanes, natural disasters. These are the moments when Guard members shine, helping neighbors, saving lives, and restoring communities. That's their mission, that's their purpose. But in recent years, we've seen calls, often politically motivated, to deploy the National Guard in situations they were never trained for, to police protests, to patrol city streets, to perform crowd control. And that's where the danger begins. The Guard is trained for combat, not for community policing. These are soldiers, not police officers. They receive only a few hours of civil disturbance training each year, compared to the months or years of training real law enforcement officers undergo. That distinction matters, because when you place soldiers in policing situations, you're asking them to perform a role that goes against their training, their instincts, and often their oath to protect citizens, not confront them. It's an impossible position, and as General Enert reminds us, history has shown the consequences. Kent State, 1970. 4 students killed by the National Guard during an anti-war protest. It took a generation for that wound to heal, for trust to be rebuilt between the military and the American people. And now, half a century later, we're being warned again that the line between defense and domestic suppression is being blurred. The General's message is clear. Every time we use the Guard as a substitute for real structural solutions, for hiring and training police, for addressing systemic inequality, for repairing our democratic institutions, we are not only wasting resources, we are eroding trust. Trust is the cornerstone of democracy. A soldier's trust in their leaders, a family's trust that their loved one's sacrifice is meaningful, a community's trust that their government serves them, not rules over them. Misusing that trust for political optics, for short-term fixes, is a betrayal of everything the Guard stands for. The General also raises a practical issue that should matter to everyone, regardless of political affiliation: cost. Mobilizing the Guard doesn't just strain morale, it drains budgets. In Los Angeles alone, it cost taxpayers $120 million to deploy 4,000 Guardsmen for just 2 months. Think about what that money could have done if invested in long-term solutions, better training for law enforcement, community-based safety programs, or even infrastructure that strengthens resilience against natural disasters. But this isn't just about money, it's about values. When we ask our soldiers to bag trash in Washington, D.C., instead of protecting the country or helping during a hurricane, we're telling them and ourselves that their time, training, and sacrifice are expendable. And when that happens, people lose faith. Soldiers lose trust in leadership. Families lose faith in purpose. Communities lose trust in institutions. That's how democracy erodes. Not with a single act, but with a steady series of misuses, misjudgments, and misplaced priorities. General Enert's words are a call to conscience, a reminder that the tools of democracy, dialogue, policy, reform, must come before the tools of force. Deploying soldiers should never be a substitute for good governance. If we truly want to honor the service of our men and women in uniform, we need to protect their integrity by using them appropriately for real emergencies, not political theater. We need to invest in prevention, not reaction, in long-term reform, not short-term optics. And above all, we must remember that every decision involving force carries the weight of history. Kent State was not inevitable. It was a choice, made in fear and misjudgment. Today, we have the power to make a different choice. The General's warning isn't just about the National Guard. It's about the health of our democracy. We are reminded that leadership means foresight, restraint, and empathy. It means ensuring that those who serve this country do so for missions that matter, missions that protect freedom, not threaten it. We need to invest in prevention, not reaction, in long-term reform, not short-term optics. And above all, we must remember that every decision involving force carries the weight of history. Kent State was not inevitable. It was a choice, made in fear and misjudgment. Today, we have the power to make a different choice. The General's warning isn't just about the National Guard. It's about the health of our democracy. We are reminded that leadership means foresight, restraint, and empathy. It means ensuring that those who serve this country do so for missions that matter, missions that protect freedom, not threaten it.